1 of the introduction. Mr. Perry, will you read the opening paragraph of the preface entitled Understanding Poetry?
Understanding Poetry by Dr. J. Evans Pritchard, Ph.D. To fully understand poetry, we must first be fluent with its meter, rhyme, and figures of speech. Then ask 2 questions. 1, how artfully has the objective of the poem been rendered? And 2, how important is that objective? Question 1 rates the poem's perfection. Question 2 rates its importance. And once these questions have been answered, determining the poem's greatness becomes a relatively simple matter. If the poem's score for perfection is plotted on the horizontal of a graph, and its importance is plotted on the vertical, then calculating the total area of the poem yields the measure of its greatness. A sonnet by Byron might score high on the vertical, but only average on the horizontal. A Shakespearean sonnet, on the other hand, would score high both horizontally and vertically, yielding a massive total area, thereby revealing the poem to be truly great. As you proceed through the poetry in this book, practice this rating method. As your ability to evaluate poems in this manner grows, so will your enjoyment and understanding of poetry.
Excrement. That's what I think of Mr. J. Evans Pritchard. We're not laying pipe. We're talking about poetry. How can you describe poetry like American Bandstand? Well, I like Byron. I give him a 42, but I can't dance to it. Now, I want you to rip out that page. Go on. Rip out the entire page. You heard me. Rip it out. Rip it out. Go on. Rip it out. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Gentlemen, tell you what, not just tear out that page, tear out the entire introduction. I want it gone. History. Leave nothing of it. Rip it out. Rip! Be gone, J. Evans Pritchard, Ph.D. Rip! Shred, tear, rip it out. I want to hear nothing but ripping of Mr. Pritchard. We'll perforate it. Put it on a roll. Not the Bible. You're not going to go to hell for this.
This week you are going to write your second essay, which is an argumentative essay. I've given you some information here about what constitutes an argumentative essay. One of the things I want you to be aware of, I will be checking for your thesis. Your thesis needs to be the last sentence of the first paragraph. It can be more than one sentence. You're going to take a firm stance on an issue, which I will explain down here later on. I've given you some examples of what an argumentative essay looks like. So take some time, read this information above here, as well as looking at the different examples here. The reading for this week is How to Make Arguments About Literature, pages 47 through 80. Now, many of you will be tempted to just start writing your essay. I suggest that you take some time and read this information. It will give you everything that you need to know and give you some ideas about how to attack this or how to develop this essay. Also, I've included a document about using evidence in analyzing literature. Then also you're going to read Writing About Poems and Elements of Poetry from pages 136 to 153. Here's the essay. Essay number 2, position paper. Argue that the attitude of just one of these poets toward love affairs is closer to that of today's college students than the others. So you need to analyze all three. You need to choose one of them and argue your position that this poem better demonstrates what is going on with love affairs in the college student. The 3 poems are here. The length, this is a shorter essay. 500 words is at least two pages to 750 words. Okay, here is some information about what I expect. You will not need a works cited page unless you use outside information. Then you do need an MLA works cited page. I've included some information about verb tense. This is critical. Generally, the general rule is when discussing the events depicted in literature, use the present tense unless there is a strong reason not to. The assumption is that the events are always occurring at the present moment for the reader. And I've given you some examples. I've also given an example of when you use past tense. This essay differs from your previous essay in that I'm going to have you look at an essay checklist. You do not have to do anything with this. It's just a framework from which to work from as you revise your essay. Go through there. Again, if you circumvent this step, your essay tends to be weaker than if you were not to do that. Okay? Then, as part of your essay, you need to write a revision memo. What this is, it tells me that you actually revised your essay from the first draft. So this is as part of your grade, and so you need to do this and submit this along with your final draft. Here is a video to watch about how to write a good argumentative essay, the introduction, the body, the conclusion. Discussion, how would you describe the tone of each of these poems? I've given you some tone words right here, so that should help. Helpful links. I've also included some information about how to read a poem. I know for some of you, poetry is like chewing on aluminum. Lastly, here's the checklist and also the due dates. Okay, have a good time with poetry. Talk to you later.
That's all, folks.